Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today's project, we have this 2018. It's a Toyota CHR. We're going to be replacing the rear parking brakes and rotors with new ones. This is electronic parking brake, just so you know. So we will have to retract the parking brake assembly just so we can push the pistons back in so we can replace the brakes. All right, it sounds easy and it's really not that bad. In this particular car, it's a lot different than some of the cars. Some of the cars, you need a scan tool to retract the parking brake. On this particular one, you can use the car computerized parking brakes to retract it and do the rear brakes yourself. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get in there. I'm going to show you what kind of tools we're going to need, and then we're going to get started, and we're going to get this job done. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the key in the ignition and turn it on. We're going to come down to the electronic parking brake right here. We're going to lift it up 3 times and down 3 times. On the last time, we're going to hold it down until you hear the parking brake retracting all the way. All right, so this is what we're going to do. Well, first we're going to do is we're going to step on the brake pedal and hold it. Put the key in the ignition. Turn it to the on position, not to start the vehicle. And we're going to come over to this button right over here. Now you can hear it retracting. We're going to hold it till it stops. Okay, and once it stops, we let go. And you'll notice up on the dashboard that the light up here is flashing for the parking brake. So now we're in the retracted mode. Now we can proceed and do our brakes. All right, so let's do the brakes on here, and then we'll come back and we'll reapply the parking brake. Okay, so here's an idea of what kind of tools you're going to need to get this job done. First thing we're going to need, of course, we're going to need a light so we can see what we're doing in there. We're going to need a ratchet, a fairly long ratchet, so we can get some leverage to break everything loose. We're going to need a 14mm socket. You may want to use a non-flexible head, but that's personal preference. Depends on what you would like to use. This one is a 17mm bolt, just so you know. We may need a screwdriver, and we're going to need an assortment of wrenches. We're probably going to need a 13, a 14, and probably a 17mm wrench. We're going to need something like this, like a hook, to hold the brake caliper so it doesn't fall and damage the caliper itself. We're going to need a small little pry bar to pry the piston back into the bore. We're going to need a scraper to clean off any kind of rust that's on there. We may need a file, and of course we may need some emery cloth to really make sure it's clean. We also will need a 13mm socket, and that's because we're going to be using these bolts to pop that rotor off. All right, so enough talking. Let's get this wheel off, and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do now, after we have everything pushed back in into the bore, this is the electronic parking brake is in here, and it's been retracted. Next, we take our screwdriver or pry bar, we put it in here on the side of the rotor, and we just try to push the brake pads back in. Sometimes it's pretty tight, sometimes they can go in easy. This one, as you can see, is going in fairly easy. Okay, then we're just going to push it back a little bit, and we're going to put our screwdriver between the brake pad and the rotor itself, and we're going to push that piston all the way back into the bore as far as we possibly can. It's imperative that you get it in as far as you can, because otherwise you'll have trouble getting it back together. All right, so now it's pushed in all the way. We're going to push our caliper back and forth to make sure it slides. It does slide, but it's very tight. We're checking these slide pins right here to make sure that they slide okay. You can see it's pretty tight, but they do slide. Watch, see? So we are going to lubricate these really well before we put it back together. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up right here. We're going to depress this little tab right here, and we're going to pull the electronics, or the cables, off of the parking brake. So just press it in a little bit, rock it back and forth. and it comes right off. Be careful you don't break that, because if you break it, you are going to have a bit of a problem. So be very gentle with it. We're going to put that off to the side for now. Next, we're going to come in here with our 14 millimeter, and we're going to loosen up. We're going to loosen up this bolt here. This bolt we are not going to take out, and the reason we're not going to take that out is because it's actually very tight up against the electronics on the parking brake motor itself, and we don't want to take a chance on damaging it. That's why we took this off, because we're just going to slide this out completely. All right, we'll put our socket onto the bolt, and we're going to loosen it up. Now, when you try to loosen it up, you may notice that this whole pin right here is going to rotate, and that's no good. So be prepared, get your wrench just in case, and slide it on there. This is a 17 millimeter, just so you know. It's a little bit oxidized, and then we'll break this loose. See how the wrench is starting to turn? So what we're going to do now is we're going to hold the wrench, and we're going to rotate out the hold down pin right here. So let's do that. And once it's loose enough, then of course you can take it out by hand the rest of the way. Okay, we'll take this. We're going to keep this because we're going to need this to put it back together. Let's put that to the side for now. Next, we're going to take our caliper. We're going to rotate it up, and we're going to push it back. Be careful you don't break this boot. So we'll just pull that boot off just like that, and then we'll push this back and out just like this. Okay, now we're going to take this, we're going to take our hook like this, and we're going to just secure this up and out of the way so that it doesn't fall accidentally while we're working. Okay, just like that. And that'll keep it out of our way. Next thing we're going to do, well, we can pull these pads off because it really doesn't matter right now. We're going to be replacing everything, but we're going to pull these out just like this. Okay, and you can see these brake pads are right down to the indicator. You can see where it's shiny right there. It's been touching already. Okay, so we're going to put that down. Let's push this one out just like this. And we'll put that to the side as well. Okay, next we're going to come in here and we're going to use our 17 millimeter socket. And we're going to break these two bolts in the back loose right here and right here. Okay, let me bring you in and show you what they are. Hope you can see that okay. Right there. And the other one is right there. Okay? And now we'll break these loose. Sometimes these are really tight. You may need a breaker bar to break it loose, but most of the time you can just bang them and they usually come right out. Same thing on this one. Okay, we'll take that off. And we'll take this out here as well. Now before you take the one bolt all the way out, make sure you have both of them loosened up. Otherwise it will be much more difficult later on to remove it. All right, so we're going to take this out. We're going to put our caliper mounting bracket to the side for now. And we'll come right back to that in just a little bit. But now we got to get this rotor off. How do you get a rotor off when it's stuck on there? Very easy. Remember those two bolts I told you about? Grab the bolts and you'll see a small little hole right there and right there. You screw these in. Okay? Just like that. Okay? Next we're going to take our socket that fits on it like that, take our ratchet, put it on, and just slowly turn it until you feel it come in contact with it. Same thing over here, just like that. And now you just hold it and you turn it and you'll hear it pop off. And that's just due to rust. Here. Now, if you don't have these bolts, it's not a big deal. You could take a hammer and beat on the back of it and it should come out. But if you have the bolts, it's a lot easier. I believe these are 8mm, if I'm not mistaken. All right. These will go back in my toolbox for the next car. And that's it. Our rotor is off. And that's all there is to it. Okay, now, most importantly, as you look on the back of this, on the back over here, and you see how rusted this hub is, this is never good. If you have rust on this hub and you put the new rotor on there, your brakes are going to pulsate like crazy when you go to apply them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come in here with a scraper and we're going to scrape off all of the rust. If you don't have a scraper, you can use emery cloth to clean it, or you can use sandpaper or whatever you have to clean that rust off. But it's imperative that that rust is 100% off of there, otherwise you're going to have a problem. All right, so let's clean this all up, and once we have it cleaned up, we'll come back and we'll wrap this up. And now that we're ready to, we have everything cleaned up and we're ready to put the rotors on, very important is to make sure that your rotors are exactly the same. Lay them on the ground side by side, make sure they're the same height this way. I can't tell you how many times I've had cars come in and the rotors are the wrong ones. So lay it out like this to make sure it's right. Then take your rotor, put it over the top of your old one like this, and make sure that they're exactly the same size, which they are. All right, so our rotors are good. We don't have to worry about that. We're going to put this off to the side. We're going to take some brake cleaner and we're going to clean up this part, and then we're going to turn it over and we're going to clean up that part. All right, so let's spray it a little bit and then we'll just wipe it down. We will do this later on after we put it all back together to get any kind of fingerprints off of the rotor once we install it. All right, then we'll do the same exact thing here. Spray it in here, clean it up, and then we'll wipe it all off. Okay, nice and clean. As I said, we will clean this up a little better once we have it on. Okay? Okay, next we're going to take our rotor, we're going to reassemble it. Now, if this is extremely rusty in here, you could put a slight film of grease on here to keep it from rusting up, but we're not going to do that because this is actually pretty decent. What I always do too is you can see where the old screw screwed in to pop off the rotor itself off of the hub. I always try to put it on so that the holes match up exactly how they came off. So we're going to take our rotor and we're going to turn it just like this, and we're going to line that up right there. So we'll push it on just like this, hold it on. Now, as you can see, the rotor moves around a little bit. It's a little difficult sometimes. So what we're going to do is put lug nuts on here, and then we'll come back in here and we'll finish this off. And again, this is just temporarily until we get it all put back together. But this holds the rotor from moving around, so it makes it a little easier for you to work on the car without the rotor moving all over the place. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to take off the hardware off of the caliper itself, or the caliper mounting bracket. We're just going to pull this off just like this. Now, I will tell you this, people do call me all the time, or I should say email me all the time about how do you know which clip goes where. Best thing to do is when you take it off, put the clip down so you know what clip goes where. We know that this is the inside, and we know that's our inside clip. All right, we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Pull the clip off. Sometimes they're pretty rusty, of course, so you just get it off any way you possibly can. And then we'll pull it off just like that. And we'll lay that down as well. Next, we're going to come in here and we're going to clean up everything that you see in here, all of this rust in there, it's got to be cleaned off. Otherwise, you'll wind up with a binding brake pad and it'll prematurely wear out. And the way you would clean it up, you could take a file and you could file it off just like that to get all the rust off of it before we put our new clips on. So let me clean this up here a little bit and then we'll come back and we'll put those clips on and we'll wrap it up. Let's wipe off any of the rust that we cleaned off. Okay, we'll use a little bit of brake cleaner. Okay, nice and clean. Next we're going to take our brake lubricant, take just a little bit of it, and you squeeze it out onto every place that that brake clip is going to touch. We're going to put a slight bead of grease, just like this. Okay, and you take your finger and you just spread it all around every place that the clip is going to go. Okay, just like that. And now we'll take our clips and we'll put them back on the way that they came off. Push it onto the inside and snap it down, and it's in where it belongs. Put our next clip on, put it on like that, push it down, and it's back the way it belongs. Okay, so now that's totally finished. Next we're going to come over here and we're going to pull this out right here. We're going to pull out the slide pins and we're going to make sure we clean them up and we lubricate them. So hold the rubber seal in the back, pull it and turn, and you see it pulls right out, just like that. We're going to take some of that brake cleaner that we sprayed on, clean this off really good. We're going to take some of the lubricant that we have and we're going to put it on here. We use just a little bit, we don't use too much, just a little bit, and then we take it, put it back in, turn it, and push it until it pops in, just like that. Next we're going to come up here underneath the car itself, and we're going to do the exact same thing on that. I think it's coffee to see. We'll do that in just a minute. I'll show you that in a second. All right, so now this caliper is the caliper hold down is ready to go back onto the vehicle because this is lubricated. This one we're going to clean it off on the caliper itself, and before we slide it back in, we'll lubricate that as well. All right, so let's put this back on the car and we'll continue. Now, sometimes it's easier to lubricate inside here, but that's personal preference. I will lubricate the shoe itself with a pad, but you could put the grease in here to make it slide nice and easy when you put it back together. All right, so let's get in here. Let's put this back on, and we'll start wrap this up. Okay, now we take our mounting bracket and we bring it back up in here where we previously took it off. We're going to hold it in place and we're going to screw in the 2 screws by hand. Okay, so once we have the one caught, before we tighten it all up all the way, we'll catch our second one down in the bottom here as well. Just pull the mounting bracket out a little bit and you'll feel it lines up and you can tighten it in. All right, so now that we have them both screwed in as far as they can, we're going to tighten up these 2 bolts here. Now there is torque specs on this. I don't have it here with me. I got to go look it up. So let me get the torque specs. Let me tighten these up and we'll come back. Let me just catch it in there for now so you have an idea. Screw these in. All right, let me torque these up and then we'll come right back. Okay, now that everything is torqued in the back over here, we're going to put our brake pads into the mounting bracket itself. Now we're going to take our brake pad that came off. We know that this one is the inner brake pad, so we're going to take this and we're going to put our clip right here as it was on the previous shoe, or pad I should say. So we're going to take our clip, bring it in here like this, push it on, just like this, push it down, and now the disc indicator clip is in the exact same position it was when we first took it off. All right, so this one is our inner brake pad. This one is our outer brake pad. Now, as you can see, these clips actually broke off or came off. You do not need to use these on the new brakes because they come on here already with the new ones. So we're going to lay it the same way like this. We're going to take our clip and we're going to put it on the exact same way that the other one was, just like this. And that is our outer brake pad, okay? Next, we are going to lubricate every place that this brake pad is going to touch. We're going to lubricate. So we're going to put some of this grease all around on here, and then we'll slide it in there. We are going to wipe some of this off just so you know, but that's pretty much what we're going to do. Every place that this brake pad is going to touch that's metal, it's going to be lubricated. Okay? That's it. All right, and this brake pad is ready to go back in. And the way you do it is you take the pad, put it in here, push it in. Okay? Just like that. I'm going to wipe the excess off because we don't need all that on there. All right, we'll do the exact same thing on the inner brake pad. We're going to just take a little bit of lubricant and we're going to put it on every place again that touches into anything metal, just like that. Push it on. This and this. All right, and the excess we'll just wipe off, and then we'll take this and we're going to put it into the back like this. We're going to go in with the bottom first, and then we'll snap the top in. Just like that. Okay, so now the brake pads are in. Next, we're going to take our caliper and we're going to reconnect our caliper onto here. But before we do that, we're going to take it like this, take our hook off. We are going to clean this off right here with some brake cleaner. We're going to spray it on the rag. And we're going to clean this off, just like that. Okay. Then we'll just take a little bit of the lubricant, put it on here. Now you don't need a lot, just a little bit, and then we'll spread it around. We don't want to put a lot on here because it'll actually cause an air block and it won't go in all the way. All right, so that's it, just like that. Next, we're going to take every place that the brake pad is going to touch, which is here, 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 and here. We're going to put some brake lubricant on there as well. We're just going to spread it around, just like this. Same thing over here and here. Okay, let's clean that grease off of our hands. Next, we'll take our caliper and we're going to slide it back into that hole right up on top there. And we're just going to move it around till it slides all the way in. Make sure your rubber boot snaps all the way up the way it's supposed to. Put our caliper on like this. Last, we're going to take our bolt that we previously took out and we're going to screw it in. I get people asking me all the time too, should you put Loctite on here? There's no need to put Loctite on there. You just tighten it up to the proper torque specs and you'll be fine. Now we're going to catch it and screw it in as far as we can by hand. Now we'll grab our 17 millimeter wrench, put it on here. Okay. Next we'll grab our socket. And we'll just tighten it up. Okay, let me get the torque specs. We'll torque this down, and we're almost finished. So now we have it all torqued. We are going to take our wrench back off, of course. It's a little bit rusted, just like that. And last but not least, we're going to take our electrical connector here, and we are going to plug it. Where are you? And we are going to plug it back in until you hear it snap. And that's it. All right? Okay, so after our brakes are done, we're going to come into the vehicle, put our key in the ignition, turn the key to the on position, and you can see that that park is still flashing. Next, we're going to come over here. We're going to step on the brake pedal itself. We're going to pump the brake pedal just to get the piston to push back out where it's supposed to be. Once it's pushed back out where it's supposed to be, hold your foot on the brake. Come back over inside the vehicle here, and what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and we're going to lift it up 3 times. And then hold it. And that's it. You can hear that the pistons have pushed out. The parking brake is now reapplied, and you'll notice that up on the dashboard, the parking light is now lit, so you're out of the service mode and you're ready to road test it. All right, let's take it for a ride and make sure everything is okay. So that's it. Our brake job is all done. As you can see, replacing the rear brakes is not that difficult, especially on these Toyotas when they have the electronic parking brake is controlled by the computer in the vehicle. You don't have any special tools required. That's it. We're going to take this out, road test it, make sure it's okay, and then this job is done, and we're on to the next one. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.